Businesses and workers on Williamson Street are still feeling the impacts following the death of Corey Ruiz. The shooting sparked protests and an encampment in that area, forcing stores and restaurants to close for weeks. Now, fundraising efforts are launching to help those who took a hit. And our Nicole Herzog joins us live in studio with more on how you can help. Nicole.
One local thrift store alone lost $100,000 while its doors were closed, and the ripple effects go far beyond the bottom line. Traffic now flows freely at Williamson and Baldwin Streets. But signs, flowers, and candles still line the sidewalks as the community continues to grieve.
It happened 20 feet from where we're standing. Some of our employees saw it. Everyone in the store heard it and went to the windows and saw the aftermath.
For businesses like St. Vincent de Paul's thrift store, the shooting left both an emotional and financial impact. The store closed for 10 days while protesters established an encampment, shutting down the intersection.
When the store is closed, those are funds that aren't available to the mission.
Money from the store goes towards homeless prevention in Dane County, with a significant portion supporting a food pantry. A $100,000 loss could make a big difference for local families.
To put that in direct perspective, $100,000, when people come to our food pantry, we can give them 2 weeks of food for about $140. That's 700 in some families. That $100,000 covers the cost.
With so many businesses and workers still hurting, one organization is stepping in to help.
We really wanted to support workers who, even the ones who were here the day of the shooting and who were impacted by how traumatic it was to see that or for it to happen right in front of their store.
PJ Chamberlain is a coordinator with MadWork, which has launched a fund to support workers who lost wages when businesses closed.
Everybody is different. Everybody feels really strongly about what happened in different ways.
Chamberlain says he hopes the fundraiser unites the community.
Really making sure we're not pitting the community against each other by having this gap of people who lost money because of what happened.
While finding a way forward for everyone affected. Both St. Vincent de Paul and MadWork have links to donate, and we have those links on our website right now. But for now, live in studio, Nicole Herzog, WMTV 15 News.
Nicole, thank you. MadWork says their fundraising goal is $25,000, and about 1/4 of that has been raised so far.